Hey everybody, Mike here with Backpacking TV. You've heard about the recent federal staffing cuts that are happening all over the country, and that's a whole big can of worms that I'm not going to get into in its entirety. But I am going to talk about the, as of right now, 1,000 plus national park and national forest workers that have been laid off from their jobs, and how that is going to affect us now in the immediate, how it's going to affect us down the line, and interesting ways that it could become even more of a problem. And we're also going to talk about the proposed selling of national public lands and what that is going to look like. So it's a big one today. Yeah, let's jump into it. So why is this a big deal? Well, we are gearing up for the summer season, which is the busiest time for national parks and national forests across the country, with an average of 350 million visitors to these places. And we're already dealing with a staffing shortage as we're operating with 80% of the staff that we operated with in 2010, and that's before the cuts. So this is a big deal, and it's something that's going to affect everybody. This is people on the left, people on the right. As Americans, we tend to enjoy the outdoors, and we tend to enjoy having incredible access to the outdoors. The United States has the most public lands of any country ever, and that's like by a country mile. I think everybody here in the US is sympathetic to national park workers, because who at some point in their life didn't want to be a park ranger? So how is this going to affect us? Well, let's take a look at some stuff that is already happening. So we're already facing much longer lines to get into popular national parks, with campgrounds already being closed in advance of the upcoming summer season, when swarms of people are going to come, and there's just not enough park resources to handle these big crowds. And park employees fear that as the summer season kicks off, there's going to be more and more people coming, which is going to further exacerbate the problems that they're already facing. And there's the fear of potential additional firings happening. As of right now, it's very up in the air as to what's going to happen to these people. And there has been, and this is notable, and we're going to get into it later, a hiring freeze regarding temporary seasonal workers that has been rescinded. And again, this is going to come up later, and it's very important. So something to keep note of is that people who work at parks tend to wear a lot of different hats. You may encounter them clearing the trail or sitting behind the front desk at a welcome station, but that's not all they do. They do everything from public restroom maintenance to actually stopping poachers. So they do a lot of stuff, and they were spread thin as it is. So now we're dealing with a situation where these people who were already wearing arguably too many hats are going to be forced to wear even more if they weren't outright fired in the opening salvo of firing. So we can expect that trail maintenance is going to be bogged down. We can expect bathrooms to be closed. We can expect even longer lines. We can expect more campgrounds to close. And this is all confirmed. We've got park rangers saying right now that these are the problems they are currently facing. This isn't speculation. This is a direct result of the cuts that we've seen so far. And that's a little concerning, considering this may have only just begun. So we're already looking at some negative things that are pretty much guaranteed to happen if they're not happening already. But equally as important to consider is what could happen. And that's where this gets kind of weird. So take a look at Nate Vince. I'm going to highlight his story really quick. He said, "I was terminated on Valentine's Day from my dream job. I apprenticed under the previous locksmith for the 4 years before his retirement. He said, 'This is a good job and you can't run without a locksmith, so you'll always have your job. The people that fired me don't know who I am or what I do. They simply don't understand the park and how big and complex it is.'" He goes on to say that Yosemite functions like a small city and has a lot of locks. And this is for everything from public restrooms to gun cases. So this is important stuff, and now they're in a situation where without a locksmith, there's bound to be some weirdness. This is just one example of a myriad of different things that could go wrong and probably will go wrong, because these people, you know, the idea of a locksmith might not be forefront in your mind when it comes to essential personnel at a national park. But it turns out they're essential personnel at a national park, and the people doing the firing just don't really know what they're doing. And that's become apparent as people are getting letters after they've been fired that say, oh wait, hold on a second, turns out we actually really needed you. Whoops. So the evidence is there. These people doing the firing don't know what they're doing. So what kind of other weird situations can we expect from this kind of poor oversight? Well, what about people who maintain the delicate balance of the ecosystem regarding certain endangered species? People who may have been studying, I don't know, a tree fungus that is slowly getting more and more out of control and explodes on a warmer summer and starts taking out every tree at the park. That's happened near me. What about the people who study that and are looking out for that? Well, what are we going to do when they're gone? So there's another issue on top of all this. There is more to discuss that we're looking at now, and that's the sale of public lands, which has recently been getting in the news more and more and more. And it's something that's deeply concerning to all of us who enjoy the United States public lands. It's not great. I am going to say this, though. A lot of people are confused about how public lands works. So public lands are something that are considered to be multi-use, which means that they are designated by the government as multi-use and as such can be used for things like mineral extraction, timber, oil extraction, that kind of thing. So there has already been plenty of commercial work done on public lands in the United States, and that's because there's a big difference between public lands and something that has enshrined protection, like national parks or monuments. So public land is actually leased, and you see that a lot. A lot of big refineries may be on public land, and they're leased for very, very cheap. So it's kind of confusing. Maybe somebody can explain it to me, somebody that knows better. Why would the people who are already leasing the land for very cheap want to pay more to buy it? Is this going to be a forced thing? How does that work when it comes to timber? Because the people who, cut timber down aren't really going to have use for land after they've cut all the trees down. Are they going to have to buy it? Is this only going to be for people who want to buy more public land? People just getting started in the public land leasing game that would probably have much rather lease the land, but now they're being forced to buy. I don't know. I don't know who's buying it. I don't know where that would take place. There have already been multiple issues surrounding the idea of selling off public land that took place during the last Trump presidency that were then nullified by Biden, that are now up on the chopping block again. It's going to be weird. So some of this is planning to be done for companies like mineral mining companies, oil extraction, timber, and then some of it is planned for housing development as well, which we do need more housing, but there's going to be the question of where is this land coming from? Is this like the stuff that we hike on and mountain bike on, or is this Bureau of Land Management land that's really far out? And if so, who would want to live there? It's so dicey. There's so much we don't know about it, and I suspect that it's going to be a topic of a future video. So it's been kind of doom and gloom up until this point, hasn't it? But now we're going to talk about a potential hopeful, and that's what we can do about this kind of thing. So, believe it or not, politicians don't like it when the public disagrees with the things that they are doing. And we have to make it known as people who care about the environment. Again, I don't care who you voted for. If you're watching this channel, you probably care a lot about the environment. We got to make it known that this is not cool. This is kind of off limits and y'all are going too far. And you might think, oh, that wouldn't work, but it kind of already has. They froze all hiring of temporary seasonal employees. So that was actually rescinded. They turned around on that issue and they said, oh, hey, it turns out everybody's really mad that we're not bringing these seasonal employees on. We might actually need those because enough people made a stink. And that's what we can do, is we can all get together and we can all make a stink together. This, plus the selling of public lands, plus the rollback of environmental protections is gonna mess up the stuff that we like the most, and that's the great outdoors. So let them know. Let them know you don't like it. And that's the big takeaway here. We need to come together, regardless of who we voted for, and we need to say, hey, you can't run nature like you run a tech startup, giving the people responsible for protecting and caring for it a fork in the road and a knife in the back. And until next time, I'm Mike with Backpacking TV. Hopefully we'll have something fun to talk about. If you're not subscribed already, please subscribe down here below. It really helps the channel out. And we'll be back next time with maybe a happier topic. Hopefully. I'll see you later.